Dell Technologies, we believe technology has the power to drive human progress. Improving healthcare, gender equity, education, and the environment is all part of building the future we want to live in. It's why we're committed to bold goals over the next 10 years, because we can't just talk about progress. We must make progress real. It starts with our team. When we're diverse and inclusive, we reflect our customers, and we're able to unleash innovation. That's why by 2030, 50% of our global workforce and 40% of our global leadership will be women. It's why we're launching STEM programs to foster the next wave of technology leaders and AI initiatives to help us mitigate bias. Through all of this, we must make sure our business practices are sustainable, so we're reimagining how future products are designed and delivered. By 2030, 100% of our packaging and over 50% of our product contents will be made from recycled or renewable materials. Plus, for every product a customer buys, we'll take back an equivalent product to reuse or recycle. We must act on a global scale, including everyone in the coming digital wave. So we're committing to transform the lives of 1 billion people in the next 10 years. Through technology, we'll advance healthcare, education, and economic opportunity initiatives around the globe. It's not only what we do, but how we do it. At the core of all these goals is our enduring promise to uphold ethics and privacy. By 2030, we will fully automate our data control processes, making it easier for our customers to access, delete, or update their personal data. At Dell Technologies, we believe innovation is the key to a better future. When we bring together new thinking, new solutions, new collaborations, and new voices, we can make progress real.
Dell EMC PowerStore is a modern storage appliance designed for the data era. Built with a data-centric architecture, it's an intelligent and highly adaptable infrastructure that supports any workload, anywhere. PowerStore includes feature portability, standardization, and rapid time to market, along with deployment flexibility. When combined with Linux-based Docker containers running Microsoft SQL and managed by Kubernetes, you have a predictable, fast, elastically scalable deployment model. Containers were initially intended for stateless applications. So for stateful applications that run on Microsoft SQL Server, you need a plug-in solution to support Kubernetes. To address this, PowerStore uses our container storage interface driver, so your data can persist if a container is deleted or shutdown occurs. In most environments, Microsoft SQL Server spans many versions, with numerous use cases. To accommodate this situation, PowerStore consolidates all versions and elevates the storage efficiencies, performance, and protection of your databases. In a data-driven organization, Microsoft SQL Server 2019 Big Data Clusters can reduce or even eliminate the extract, transform, and load processes for reporting and real-time analytics. If you consolidate your Microsoft data estate using Dell EMC PowerStore, you'll reduce complexity and shrink your hardware footprint. With exploding data comes the need for intelligent automation to drive efficiency and lower operating costs. PowerStore uses artificial intelligence and machine learning to analyze and evaluate resource levels, application demands, and storage use. It also streamlines application development and automates storage workflows through integration with popular DevOps and management frameworks. The entire deployment of Microsoft SQL Server 2019 and Big Data Clusters can be performed using a combination of Ansible and Kubespray. PowerStore brings storage into the modern digital age with an adaptable architecture that enables speed and application mobility with apps on. From the edge, to the core, to the cloud, you have the flexibility to choose your deployment options while maintaining consistent operations. Deploy with confidence with our future-proof program. Transform at your own pace with anytime upgrades, and eliminate future data migrations of your Microsoft data estate. Dell EMC PowerStore, and Microsoft SQL Server. Designed for the data era.
To be a Formula One driver, it's physically challenging. The human body goes to the absolute limit. You need to get the body ready to maximize your performance. Technology is such an important part of my training program. All the data that we collect, we analyze it, and we will design the next training program depending on that data.
By analysing the driver's performance, we'll be looking at mindset, nutrition, recovery, movement. Those 4 pillars underpin everybody's wellness. By measuring the right sorts of data and being predictive about what the potential outcome will be, we can apply these technologies directly to things like weight loss programs, diabetes, respiratory diseases. Within healthcare, we think the technology will be transformative.
I was born to be a racer, but if you have data, you can always find that last bit of performance benefit that can make you a better driver.
Pioneer in sustainability. I'm proud to share that we've hit our long-standing goal of recycling more than 2 billion, it's a lot of zeros, pounds of material by 2020. So we pulled 2 billion pounds of waste that's been eliminated from our Earth, and we did that 2 years ahead of schedule.
You automatically have a group of people who are saying, I want to get to know you, I want to help you succeed.
People today want to feel part of an organization and feel home within a corporation, and I think ERG Groups allows them to do that. I feel like girls in college, people of color can see African Americans like me that are successful in technology companies, and that gives them inspiration that if they can see it, they can be it.
We're working on issues that really matter to a large number of people.
The world has changed, and in response, many of our customers in essential industries are finding new ways to come together and accomplish great things. They're stepping up in big ways, quickly shifting the way they do business and staying operational when the world needs it most. We're amazed by their resilience and incredibly honored to be a part of their efforts. like the grocery store chain that restructured its workflow to keep its pharmacy and checkouts open, or the medical researchers living in small apartments who are still analyzing important data at home with our compact tech solutions. The schools who are redefining the classroom and giving their students powerful ways to stay connected. The municipal workers and first responders of a major metropolitan area who continue to offer critical services and protect lives. And a French healthcare company that's connecting remote teams and pulling out all the stops to produce and deliver life-saving ventilators and respiratory devices. We're with them and the millions of other customers and partners who are now making it work from home. As they keep rising to the occasion, so will we.
Good morning to all our customers, and thank you for coming and to join us in this Dell Technology Microsoft SQL webinar session in optimizing IT for innovation. So before we begin, I would like to bring you all through some of the housekeeping slides. So in the slide in front of you, as you can see, there are three main functions that you'll be using. The first one is the chat function for you to submit your quiz and answers, as well as to chat with attendees or panelists. The Q&A function, as you can see, where you can submit your question to panelists because we have a lot of quiz and feedback sessions also. And we also have the poll functions that will pop up during the quiz session for you to insert your answers, and you stand a chance to win prizes. So there are a few main prizes given at three different stages of the webinar. The first one is the quiz session, where we will be giving $40 worth of Grab vouchers, and so we'll do the same for the feedback as well as the Q&A. So do participate and also ask questions, and our team will actually answer those of your inquiries and questions. So I would like you all to look at the terms and condition slide first for like 30 seconds, and you all can take a read first. All right. So today we have a few speakers with us. They will be sharing a lot more about the Dell Technologies as well as Microsoft Server SQL. And so we have a few speakers. One, of course, is me. I'm John Lee. I'm the marketing executive for Chess Asia, who also helped to organize this webinar. And so we also have Maraj, which is our solution consultant in Chess Asia. We have Hivi, a senior system engineer from Dell Technology, as well from Microsoft. We have Peter. So once again, I really want to thank you all for joining today's webinar on a Wednesday morning. And so the first presenter will be from Peter, sharing about how you can build Windows Server 2019 hybrid platform and SQL Server 2019.
Right, thanks.
All right.
Give me a minute, let me share the screen. All right, morning ladies and gentlemen. So I would like to share the Windows Server 2019 and SQL Windows Server 2019. So let's go through one by one. So look at today, we actually found that about 34% of FME, they start to go for hybrid solution, all right? So they are currently is using the hybrid solution. And there's about 41% of your customer, especially SMB, consider to move to hybrid cloud. And there's about 74% of existing customer already using Azure cloud. So this is the changing, especially the new norm. And we have three types of edition Windows Server 2019. One is essential, another one is standard, last one is data center. Essential is suitable for small and medium company. Standard is actually suitable for medium and large. Data center is suitable for large company. So essential normally for SME that have about 25 user to 50 user, they can suitable using essential. And standard normally they're using VM. Let's say they need to using virtual machine, then they can consider using the standard version. And those customers who need for a large number of virtual machine, they can consider using data center. So this is the edition that we can go through. Essential is for 25 cal and 50 cal without purchase additional cal. It's come together, suitable for small business. In the standard one, we have this VM, especially for virtual machine. So they come with 2 virtual machine and 2 Hyper-V container. And last but not least, data center is come with unlimited virtual machine and unlimited Hyper-V container. And lastly, they have this, we call it storage space direct. Without purchase third-party additional storage solution, you can just using the existing server to become a storage. So shoulder VM is one of the important features when inside a data center. That means when you create a VM, all your data inside virtual hard disk, this data being encrypted, no one can disclose your data. So that's one of the important security feature from Windows Server 2019. So either you go for cloud or either you go for premises. So the trend, most of customers will move for this direction. And they will plan those customers who have different branches, they can plan to using on premises or either go to the cloud when they have different location, like in Austria, there's a branch in Asia or US. So they can using we call it hybrid solution to meet their requirement. Azure Arch is one of the top level management tools, allow you to manage multiple cloud and also on-premises server from the top level, allow you to check your security anywhere, implement services, and also adopt a practice on-premises server. So this is one of the important technology allow you to manage on-premises, multi-cloud, and also edge. All right, 4 important point here we can see: Azure Backup, Azure Active Directory, Site Recovery, and Update Files. So existing customer, let's say they're using the hybrid, they actually can back up their file to Azure and also on premises. Those data is confidential, they can store inside on premises. Those data is not confidential, they can put in on the cloud. So they have a site recovery and backup. This is one of the important for hybrid platform for SMB. So this is the important feature we can see here. We can update your management, Active Directory, backup, site recovery, and Azure file update. So either you want to move to the cloud or either you want to put on a premises. So this is the important feature we can see. From left side, you have this business continuity disaster recovery. Then we have site recovery, Azure backup, storage replica, extend on-premises capability. Either you want to go for Azure fast synchronization, storage migration, cloud witness, and then you can create your VM either on networking as well. On the other side, you can centralize monitoring your tools, monitoring using Azure Monitor, Azure Security Center, and update management. Last but not least, Azure Arch is one of the important features, allow you to monitor all your server either on cloud or on premises, all right? And also come with the Azure policy. Okay, so next I would like to share the SQL Server 2019. Today, the most of the challenge customer facing is because of the ETL and also AI, artificial intelligence, machine learning. Next one is the security issue, compliance. And last but not least, about the performance tuning. So this is most of the problem they're facing. So let's see SQL 2019 how we can solve your problem. Inside SQL Server 2019, we have already integrated together with Spark, together with AI machine learning. So this is actually help to overcome all those intelligent problem on the data, on any data. And we can support different platform like Linux, container, Kubernetes, and also ARM processor. So we allowed to support different type of platform. And we have this, we call it performance, allowed, the performance wise up to 30 terabyte intelligent database. In terms of security wise, on the past 9 years, SQL 2019 still the best. We have a low vulnerability attack and we have a high skill in terms of database. Last but not least, you can using our Power BI SQL Server reporting service to monitoring all your SQL Server availability inside your cloud, either on cloud or on premises. So the cost for the implement SQL 2019, either you're in edge or in the cloud, your cost is actually cheaper, almost 1/10 from the other vendor. So this is one of the important factor, especially at this economy. So you can just convince those SME to implement SQL 2019. On SQL 2016 and 17, we have a strong foundation. We already built out the intelligent performance, especially tuning and also the processing much more faster. In terms of security side, we already come together with encryption, row level security as well, and dynamic data masking. Mission critical, one cluster is down, the other cluster will available. So this is one of the features that available on 2016 and 17. And developer experience, we support all the developer experience, allow link one to another, especially programming language like JavaScript, JSON, temporal table, and also graph database. So allow developer to connect with our SQL Server database using the developer tools. Last but not least, we are allowed to support all the modern platforms, including Linux, container and machine language as well, some other programming language like R programming and Python. So this strong foundation has been built on SQL 2016 and 17. Let's see Windows Server SQL 2019. First, without changing any data from the Oracle, either from SAP HANA or other vendor, you can virtualize your data without touching original data. So this is one of the very beautiful thing. So we have this, we call it Transact SQL and also Polybase, allowed to virtualize Oracle database into our SQL database. So this is one of the important features coming in Windows Server 2019 without additional cost to migrate from old data to a new data. Then we support all these platform, Kubernetes, container, ARM processor, Linux as well. So this is the modern platform, SQL 2019, able to integrate and support each other. Then we have this machine learning extensible, allowed to extend to R programming, Python and Java as well, to link with your database. Intelligent performance wise, everything run in memory, the performance wise faster, retrieve data, query, everything will be getting faster compared with previous version in a Windows Server SQL 2019. And in terms of security wise, we're having a very good encryption and all the data being protected based on the compliance in terms of protection data. So the data injection attack will not allow to attack our SQL server. It will be very tough to attack our SQL server. Business continuity is one of the important things that available. Let's say one is not functioning, they can actually recover from the other side. So this is the Windows Server SQL 2019 provided to you, especially our new customer SME. They need it, especially data virtualization in a big data clustering, different platforms support one to another, learning, machine learning as well, and also the intelligent performance in terms of security compliance. Last but not least, business continuity. So let me share with you this customer. This is one of the customer that in the Microsoft, our existing customer using the SQL 2019 big data cluster. Let's share with you the story about that, how they can using this SQL database analyze their disease on this cancer.
In cancer, the availability of drugs is not the problem. It's which drug is the right drug for the right patient. So the more we can speed up the process of understanding which drugs work in which patients, the faster we can cure cancer.
A single cancer cell can have 11,000 mutations, so the amount of data that's available to us is extraordinary, but it's not put together in any way that's easily searchable for us. Initially, we would rely upon individual experience to understand what to search for in public data sets. That could take days to weeks. Today, we can access this data real time while we're speaking on the phone with a client and be proposing studies for them to conduct that call.
When SQL Server 2019 Big Data Clusters became available to us, it was far more efficient and far more powerful than anything we had used before.
With big data clusters, what we've been able to do is compute roughly 30 times faster for the same cost that we would have for hardware on site, and it's shareable. One of the things we're taking advantage of in big data clusters is to look at the things that even a team of humans couldn't. So in our synthetic lethality experiment, we looked at all possible gene pairs. Well, that's hundreds of millions of combinations. For a team of humans to run through it would be absurd.
Having a common framework to help share our findings and enable data scientists on one end and research scientists on the other to collaborate over the same data, big data clusters allows us to do that and to scale infinitely as our business grows.
People here work in a pretty tough disease, and we have entrepreneurial companies with drugs that they think can help a patient with cancer. And when we put those two together, we can make decisions about who should likely benefit, and when they do, that's a great call for that patient to go home, spend another dinner with their family, another birthday, another anniversary. That's what it's all about.
So you can see that Windows Server 2019 is actually very powerful and support each different platform. And also without modify original data, you can virtualize the data into the Transact SQL and also Polybase. All right, this is my sharing. Will I pass to Hitra?
All right, thank you, Peter, for the amazing presentation and the video from Microsoft. And so next we have our next speaker, Hivi, and to talk more about the data protection for Microsoft Server SQL Server. Yes, please welcome Hivi.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you for your time today. Today, I'm going to share with you really quickly on how Dell are able to help customers like yourself to protect your Microsoft SQL Server workloads. Okay. So before I start, I just want to quickly introduce you to what are the disconnect between the admins that database admins are facing today, right? So the data protection landscape for database is changing. Because if you look at application owners such as the database admins, they are finding it very difficult to meet the backup window. And this is becoming a problem for them. Why? This is due to because of the explosion of the data growth that needs to be protected, which will shrink the backup window size. And the lack of the control and visibility into their backups. And many of these kind of database admins are becoming dissatisfied. Why they are becoming dissatisfied? Because typically, if we look at the backups of the SQL servers or those database itself or applications, they are typically handled by backup admins. Okay, and when it's handled by backup admins, they do not get the visibility to it. So these conditions are causing the DBAs, or we call it the DB admins, to start to back up on their own, okay? And they may start backing up all their database into the primary storage instead of the protection storage, which will increase the cost. As you know, most of these, how would I call it? These applications like SQL servers, they have their own native tools to allow the database admins to do dump and sweep protection. Okay, when they do that, this will leave the backup team without any understanding on where the copies are being kept and how the backups are happening. And this is really going to cause a rift or a tensions between the database team and the backup admin team itself. Okay. So with Dell, our next data protection solution, next generation data protection solution, we are able to meet the requirement from the data users, database admins, and the IT admins by improving their satisfaction and bridging the tension between the DB admins and the IT admins, right? By combining our PowerProtect software, our backup protection, and our PowerProtect DD appliance, which is the appliance to store the backup data. So besides protecting the database and the app's workload, the solution is also capable in protecting other operating systems and modern workloads like Kubernetes in the previous slide, like mentioned by the previous speakers. So what is a PowerProtect DD? It's really a purpose-built backup appliance to store the backup data efficiently with the deduplication technology, so it can help customers like yourself to protect more data with lesser storage footprint. So I just want to quickly give you an overview about our portfolios for the PowerProtect DD. So we have the virtual editions. So it allows you to deploy in the public cloud or in the software-defined data centers or wherever you want it, right? And then we have a hardware appliance for customers that that prefer to have a hardware environment. We have a small enterprise all the way to large enterprise. So one thing I want you to take note here is today, if you look at DD3300, the usable capacity, if you look at it, it's a 4 to 32 terabyte. However, if you look at the logical capacity, what does it mean, right? It means that the logical capacity is the data that can be protected is from 200 terabyte all the way to 1.6 petabyte with a usable capacity of 4 terabyte to 32 terabyte. And how are we able to do that? Is because we have our superior data deduplication technology, right? So this technology allows us to store more backup in a smaller footprint. How do we do that? So if you look at the example here that on the Friday, we are doing a full backup over here. So this could be your database as well. So if we look at this on the Friday, we can see all these blocks, the A, B, C, D, A, E, F, G blocks, right? So if you take note that the A block is a duplicate, okay? So only one of the copies, one of the blocks will be used in the protection storage. So if you look at the Friday full backup data, the protection, the data that we protected is 1 terabyte. However, the physical storage requirement in order to protect this 1 terabyte is 250 gigabyte. So as it goes on with the incremental backup, etc., so you can see that it doesn't copy it only moves the unique data into the protection storage. At the end of the day, after the one whole week, you can see that the solution has already protected 2.2 terabyte of data. However, it only requires 288 gigabyte of storage footprint in order to protect that amount of data. So why using our PowerProtect solutions to protect your Microsoft SQL workload, right? So because of the next generation data management solution, we are able to help you to establish the backup as a service foundation, okay? And at the same time, we help you to transform and modernize the IT data center with the software-defined and multi-cloud capabilities, which I'm going to share later on, a little bit on, giving you the capability to schedule your database backups from the simplified UI, okay? And for the IT admins or the backup admins to be able to meet the performance service level objective using application direct with DD Boost. I will also share with you over the next few slides on what do I mean by this, right? And then at the same time, we are able to provide the DBAs their traditional and enhanced support to protect their native database application as well. So all this integration with, for example, the SQL Server Management Studio is possible And then last but not least, we have our cloud, how do you call it, a SaaS reporting, centralized SaaS reporting for the customer to use as well. So earlier I talked about the rift. We are causing the rift for the DBA. I mean, the DBAs and the IT admins have the rift or the tensions between them. So with the Power Protect software, we empowers the database owner or the DBAs to be able to perform the backup and recovery operations from their native applications. In this case, we are similarly giving them the capability to do a self-service. While at the same time, we give the IT admins the capability to have the oversight and governance to ensure the compliance from the DBS itself. So with the ability to decentralize to manage decentralized protection operations that consume backup admins time, now that backup admins are able to delegate those complex backup duties to other members in the team so that they can free up their time for the other operational activities. So earlier I talked about application direct for Microsoft for the Microsoft SQL, right? So how does really a DB admin does the self-service, right? So we have our application direct feature that can integrate directly with the enterprise application like SQL, okay? In this case, this allows the application owner to have the full control and visibility of their own backup to the Power Protect DD systems using their, in this case, the SQL Server Management Studio. By giving the application owner the control of the recovery and or backup recovery process, they do not need to go through the backup admin to initiate a backup or perform a restoration, right? This will enable a faster recovery time for the SQL workload. And at the same time, because of this technology, it has the client-side deduplication, and then it speeds up the backup by 50% and reduce the bandwidth requirement by up to 98%. So how do we do that, right? So I just want to give you an example over here. So if you look at how we modernize our backup for SQL using our DD Boost technology, it's how do I call it, in comparison to the traditional way, right? In other solution, when you want to back up the data, if you look at the screen here, the 5 terabyte of data, if you want to back up that to a protection storage, you have to send all these 5 terabyte of the data to the backup appliance to get it deduplicated and then stored. So what we do differently compared to others in the market today is we do the source-based deduplication where we transform this by moving the validation of the dedupe block to the host and perform it inline. So this results in we identifying the blocks that do not exist in the Power Protect DD, and then we only send those unique blocks to the Power Protect DD to store it there. So with this, we are able to give a full backup at the cost of the incremental to our customers. As we always recommend our customers to do a full backup because we can manage it more efficiently with our DD Boost technology. So if you look at the screen, it gives you a faster backup, a lower CPU utilization, because we don't send the full 5 terabyte to the protection storage. We are using less LAN bandwidth, and storage reduction, simple, and optional backup media as well. We do that. So this screen here just give you an example of a real life example that what we did with one of the large insurance customers backup for their SQL servers. Okay, so if you look at the bottom, they are using their traditional way without our technology. You can see their whole backup takes about 45 minutes, and you can see on average their CPU utilization hits about 46%. With our DD Boost technology, we are able to lower down the CPU utilization to 34%, and we halve the time required to back up the same workload, okay? From 45 minutes to 22 minutes. So one of the unique features that these solutions provide to our SQL customers is, we give them the ability, the instant access ability, where this capability allows you to boot up multiple virtual machines using the backup protection copy. This is done by mounting the virtual machine disk over the network to run it on data domain, Power Protect DD, the protection storage, instead of restoring it into a production environment. With this capability, DevOps teams, or the DBS team, you can run your production apps or copies within seconds as a test or sandbox environment. As for DBS itself, you can minimize your downtime by enabling them to mount the VMDK through the recovery SQL Server Management Studio. And another thing is the automated protections. With the solution, we provide you the automated protection, to give you a hands-off protection capability. What this means is, this will enable the protection plan to enable the automation of the backups with reduce your administrative efforts and increase the platform efficiency and performance. What it does is really, this solution will help you to automate the discovery of your database, your virtual machines, your protection storage. So once they have done this automation, discovery of the database, etc., if the discovered access will be automatically classified and assigned to a pre-configured protection plan, or we call it the backup policies. So this is all done automatically to ensure that you are meeting the compliance and the service level agreement objective. Sorry about that. And also, these solutions, it supports the always on, your SQL always on group. So have the intelligent backup is supported on the always on group, and point in time recovery capabilities of your active file group backups. So it also supports for SQL clusterless and domain independent always on groups. So now earlier we talked about, protecting the data, right? So once all your SQL data is being protected, stored in a Power Protect DD environment, right? There are a variety of replication options to move this protected deduplicated data to a secondary site or a tertiary site for restore in case, in a multiple location, in case there's a disaster, okay? So if you look at the graphic over here, you can see that, it shows a number of smaller systems are being replicated into one hub site. In this scenario, multiple system replicating into one in a many-to-one configuration. So if you look at the slides, there are flexible replication, one-to-many, many-to-one, bidirectional, system-to-system, etc. So we also understand that customers have a variety of application workloads that can, and we want to ensure that, we provide a variety of backup targets, storage options, including the cloud solutions as well. So for customers like yourself, if you're thinking about leveraging the cloud as well, the next few slides will show you how you can take advantage of the agility and the flexibility of the public, private, and hybrid cloud to protect your SQL workload. Okay, so the first one is talking about long-term retention to the cloud. So many organizations follow corporate or the regulatory compliance requirement to govern how long your data needs to be kept. Traditionally, customers will have compile with their data retention policies by archiving older data from their primary backup to the tape. Archiving to tape is quite costly and it's a very cumbersome solution. And with tape storage and retrieval, it introduced a certain risk because recovery from tape, it's not 100% in a way. So with the rise of the low-cost cloud storage technologies, it is no longer to make sense. It's no longer makes sense to use tape for long-term retention. We are seeing a lot of customers today. They are moving to leveraging on cloud technologies to store their long-term data. So if you see at the screen here, the data can be protected in your on-prem. And for those data that, you want to archive, you can actually extend it to the cloud. So we work with, from Dell Technologies, we work with all these cloud providers as well. Of course, we have our preferred public cloud providers as well, like Azure, okay? And then moving on to the next one, replicate to and from the cloud. So to ensure the workloads are truly protected and always recoverable, not only the data must be backed up, right? So we have done the first step. We are backing up the data into our on-prem. But the backup data should always be replicated to a second location in case the appliance or the data in the first site is compromised, okay? Because if you look at the way we replicate, for example, if I use an example, all your SQL data is being protected on-premise and I'm replicating it to the public cloud in Azure, okay? So if anything happens, is let's say my hardware in my on-premise is like damaged, it's faulty, I can always get a new hardware, put it in, and I can replicate back the same data from the cloud back to my on-premise as well. So this is some of the ways that we are seeing customers are leveraging cloud to keep their second copy of their data safely. The third one, the cloud disaster recovery. Being able to recover from a disaster is very critical for a lot of organizations. So what this solution does is, for customers that do not have a DR site, that you want to leverage a public cloud as a DR location, you can do that with our technology, with Dell data protection technology. So if you're running your SQL workload in a VMware environment, okay, with 3 clicks, you can actually fail over it to an Azure environment to get your VM running in Azure. And with 2 clicks, you can fail it back to on-prem. So this is the beauty about our cloud disaster recovery capability that we have built into the solution itself. Last but not least, the in-cloud data protection. So what if the customers today, as yourself, you are purely on the cloud, right? So if you're on AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, or VMware Cloud on AWS, we also have the in-cloud data protection available for you, from SQL servers to or whatever modern applications that you are using. We have a solution to protect all your data in the cloud, because this public cloud provider only maintain, they do not protect your data. The responsibility to protect your data in cloud is solely by the customers. So I'm on my last slide now. So Dell is so confident with our technology to help our customers that we have designed a future-proof loyalty program for all of you. So it comes with a 3-year satisfaction guaranteed, data protection deduplication. So this will help you to protect your investment in the technology with us. And then with this, of course, there will be some term and condition applies. If you're interested to know more about this, please reach out to us. And then that's it. I'm at my last slide. And thank you very much, everyone. And I'll pass it back to Leon. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Hiri, for your presentation. So we have come to the quiz session for you guys to participate. Yeah, so as you know, there will be gifts that will be rewarded to people who participate. So do actively answer some of these questions. These questions will be popped up in your screen, and I believe you will be able to see. So just have to answer the questions. So the quiz is based on the previous presentations. Yeah, the first to answer correctly will actually win the prize. And the winner will be announced after the webinar via email. Yeah. So I'll do a countdown from 3 to start each question. So now is the question 1. Yeah. Oh. So now is the question 2. And 3, 2, 1, start. All right, so 2 more questions to go, I believe. All right, this will be the 3rd question coming up. What are the key benefits when using Dell data protection solution to protect SQL workloads? So 3, 2, 1, start. All right, wow, everyone got it correct. Not correct, but 100% will choose all of the above. Okay, last question. What are the unique cloud capabilities that Dell Data Protection Solution provides? All right, in 3, 2, 1, you can start answering. Okay, we are done for the first round of the quiz. Yeah, and don't worry if you did not win or you answer wrongly, because there will be second round of quiz coming up later after Mirage presentation. So stay tuned. All right, so next we have Mirage to talk about the server migration, some of the scenarios to help you guys understand. So Mirage, please.
Thank you, Leon. I hope everyone can hear me. Give me a second while I share my screen. Okay, first, thanks everyone for staying. Thanks for sharing your morning with us. Okay, so my segment today is, before that, I'm Miraj Malik. I'm solutions consultant for Chess Asia, pre-sales. Some of you might already know me. What I want to discuss today will be how we link the SQL Server 2019 new features and the backup protection that you have already heard, and how can we migrate you guys to all these new features. Okay, so at the end of this session, hopefully all of you can understand the considerations and the impact of the strategies that I will discuss. Okay, and how important it is for you to see how the new features map into your future development of your databases. Okay, and at the same time protect it. Okay, so starting off, first, the considerations. Okay, so key to the consideration is for you to understand how many SQL servers you have, whether they are homogeneous or they of all the same versions and so on, and understanding if you have all these multiple versions, whether you have any legacy versions, what can you migrate to 2019 and what you can't. Okay, so as an overview, for you to do an in-place upgrade, you will need a minimum of SQL Server 2012. And for most data migration strategies involving wizards, you'll need a minimum of SQL Server 2005. Next will be the number of SQL databases. and the size of those databases. All of these will essentially impact the downtime that you can afford yourself. Of course, the other thing will be to consider what kind of backup strategies that are already in place, how your data is stored, and what kind of technologies you take to are available for you to transfer your data back and forth. All this can be helped if you do virtualize your servers. Not all of you do, for good reason, and whether or not these data are portable. So when you virtualize your data, your logical volumes or the shared volumes that you store this data become portable, and that makes things a lot easier. And especially if you have centralized shared volumes, just a matter of changing targets. Okay, so a lot of you might consider that the easiest way to go forward will be to perform an in-place upgrade. You're not wrong. It is supported and it is theoretically the simplest. However, there are some things that you need to consider before you go down that path. The first is you must know what features are deprecated. So, for example, those who have servers running before 2012, you might not be able to take advantage of this in-place upgrade, especially if you still have database mirroring implemented. All these needs to be moved on to always-on availability groups and so on. And typically, you do not just upgrade SQL Server. You will want to upgrade your OS as well. And upgrading OS is always, although supported, it can come with a few surprises. So once you have anything that happens that you cannot troubleshoot or you cannot reconfigure to fix the problem, it will involve backup and restore at the very simplest. But eventually, this will just build up your time. So while I agree that an in-place upgrade is quick and lowest cost, it depends on how many servers you have, whether those servers can be upgraded, whether or not it's safe for you to move your old database with its old features to SQL Server 2019. Okay, so just take note that this one, although it's quick and fast, it is also the riskiest. Okay, other ways to go forward. So it depends on your downtime and your data size. Okay, so the easiest way after an in-place upgrade is to just do a backup and restore. This depends a lot on how much downtime you have and how big your database is. The easiest is for you to just do a full backup and to restore. This will work for anything smaller than, say, 200 gigabytes, 250 gigabytes, or depending on what kind of backup system that you have, the speed of data transfer and so on. All right, and the actual size of your data. So whether or not right now, do you practice a full backup or do you practice incremental or differential backup? I think he mentioned something earlier on that maybe a lot of people would prefer to run a incremental or differential backup. So take note that once you perform, for example, a differential backup, and when you restore it, you have to set it in no recovery mode, and you have to restore each differential, each incremental daily backup until you get to the full size. And when you're comfortable, you have to target and plan it correctly so that when you cut over, you take as little time as possible. So full backup will take the most time, and differential backups, a good thing is for differential backup, once you install the new server, you can just run the full backup in parallel and slowly do your differential backup, saving the last differential backup for as close to the cutoff date as possible. Much simpler than that will be if you are virtualized or if you have central shared volumes, simply detach and reattach your database. There are considerations to this as well. If it's just pure data, it can be easy for you to just attach and detach MDF and LDF files, but do take note that if you have a lot of scripts or a lot of maintenance tasks or schema scripts at the back end, these need to be moved as well. Okay, essentially they're all stored in the same volumes. It can be moved, but take note that attach and detach, although simple, it works best for simple databases. So the ideal way is for you to perform the to run the data migration assistant available in SQL Server on all the latest versions of SQL Server from 2008 onwards, if I'm not mistaken. One of the most powerful things data migration assistant will help you to do is to be able to run an assessment. So that assessment is key for you to understand what is available and not available in the target environment. So data migration assistant typically will run it on a second. We'll have to set up a separate server. From the separate server, we'll connect all the various sources and connect to the targets that you have, assuming that this target has already been set up. In the fashion that you require with the availability and the protection models that you require. So once you set up, you run the data migration assistant, you can look for compatibility issues, all right? Check for new requirements, whether you need anything else installed that was already in the source. And a cool feature is for you to see tweaks and how you tune your performance and reliability. So in this case, we'll usually work with a DBA, either your own or we have our own database administrators, preferably one that can work well with your application owners, and to see perhaps some queries are outdated or some queries have been deprecated. So this might need to be changed to support the newer additions. Okay? And you can run this job as many times as you need. It's automated. It copies and everything. Okay, and the good thing is, for example, if you're moving to another server over the network, you can encrypt the connection. Sorry, something's blinking. Okay. Okay, back to this. Okay, so once you've done this migration assistant, all right, you have the option for you to perform it multiple times up to a point where you are ready to cut over your latest to cut over to the latest server edition. Second thing will be SQL Server Migration Assistant. So Data Migration Assistant runs basically from SQL Server to SQL Server. If you want to go from Oracle, MySQL, SAP ASE, DB2, or even Access, you'll need to run the SQL Server Migration Assistant. So this will be, again, an automated tool which will help you connect from your old source and put it onto your new SQL Server 2019. Okay, so the difference between these two, the data migration assistant and the SQL Server migration assistant, is that the SQL Server migration will run for multiple sources. You will need to install its own instance. It's not just one tool that will support everything. There's different versions for each of these data sources. There's a separate set of installers, a separate set of binaries for Access, DB2, Oracle, SQL, and SAP. And each has to be run in its own context. So typically, this will be a huge thing. Your database administrators and application owners must be involved, and you must understand whether there are any query challenges, any scripting challenges that has to be addressed in this one. Okay, next is something that we cannot ignore is, oh, sorry. This is an example of how the data migration assistant will look like. Let me zoom in for some of you who can't see it. Okay, so in this case, it shows compatibility issues, all right, of SQL statements, okay, and how they impact your database in the new SQL Server 2019, and we will then need DBAs to come in and modify those statements or modify the schema if need be, or perhaps decide not to go forward if it can't be done. Okay, so something that we can't ignore is some of you might choose to migrate to Azure database, Azure database instances. Okay, so there are two ways for you to do this, offline and online, and both of them will run on the Azure Database Migration Service. The database migration service is something you configure on the cloud and for you to point one data source to the other. However, before this, we always encourage or we always practice that you run your data migration assistant first. So your data migration assistant will be able to run the assessment tool, which I spoke of earlier, and to assess the different scenarios or the different challenges that you will face moving from your source environment to Azure SQL instances. Whether standard single instance or multiple instance, you should run the DMA first before we run the job on the DMS, the data migration service. Okay, so offline mode is basically a schema and data copy. It copies your entire database and then pastes it and transfers it to the SQL instance. Another way for larger databases will be to run the online method. This online method will actually create the first copy, and up to when you decide the cutover point will be, your delta changes will keep on replicating. Something that we can't really do with availability groups, because availability groups require the same version, but this will be a transactional replication from your initial copy up to the date that you want to perform the cutover. Just to set expectations, there will still be downtime required for your application reconfiguration, your connection strings, and so on. So in most migrations, this will be what is needed after the server migrates. So take these into consideration when you come to planning your downtime. Estimate downtimes for maybe 500 gig databases. Depending on what you choose, a straight backup and restore typically takes 8 to maybe 12 hours, depending on the technology that you use. If you use what Hivi mentioned earlier, 22 minutes maybe, or maybe slightly longer than that, but not by much. Okay, and so that is why some people, when your database cannot be down for that long, you choose to run differential backup to have a more parallel approach rather than just a big bang approach. Okay, so I hope that clarified the mystique of how to get to SQL Server 2019 and how to enjoy its new features. Whether you want to run it as a server instance or to run it as a container, it depends on how you set up the target environment. The methods will be more or less the same. Okay, so again, I'm from Chas Asia. We've been Microsoft solution providers for 27 years now, and we hope to serve you for much longer. And what we can do is, interestingly, specifically to SQL Server, is that we run data analysis on Power BI for both ourselves and for our customers. We have CRM tools that we have been managing for years, and the data is huge, and we analyze almost all our transactions for the past, I would say, at least 5 years. Okay, so that's my last slide. Thank you everyone for hearing me out, and I'll pass it back to Leon.
All right, thank you very much for the sharing. So good news, we are back to the quiz session where you are able to win rewards like Grab vouchers. So just repeat the rules of the quiz. So basically, the first to answer correctly will win, and the question will pop up on your screen, and the winner will be announced after the webinar via emails. So every start of the question, I'll do a countdown of 3, like from 3, and then we can start. So let's start with our first question. 1, 2, 3, go. Which of these methods supports Oracle migration? All right, then next will be our last and final quiz. So here it comes. Bring the question. Which method carries the most risk? 1, 2, 3, go. All right. So here's all we have for our quiz. And right now, before we end our session, and we do have a feedback form that we want you guys to participate by actually filling up this feedback form for us. And lucky winners for people who fill up the form will be randomly picked from all the submissions that we have. And the prize are actually $140 worth of Grab vouchers, food vouchers for the winner. So y'all should be able to see a link that is in the chat box for the form. So just take a few minutes for you guys to complete the form. And also, if you guys have any more further questions, y'all can also continue to post under the Q&A. And we still have the last slides where we actually answer all further questions that you guys have. So those people that haven't complete the form, y'all can continue to do, and we hope to receive more feedback from you guys that are still in this webinar. All right, okay, so now we come to the last part of the webinar. So you'll answer further questions that you guys have that have not been answered. So do continue to enter more some of the questions that you wanted to ask that you hadn't had a chance now, and our panelists will actually come and answer. So throughout the whole webinar, actually there's a few questions that have been asked from our attendees. So I will just raise some of these questions up, so that if some of the replies, the answers are not to satisfaction, or you want them to explain more, you can also voice out. All right, so let's start with the first question that actually was asked by David. What's the S2D max capacity?
Okay, let me answer the question. All right, for the S2D, Windows Server 2019, we don't call it S2D anymore. We call it Azure Stack SCI. We call it Azure Stack SCI. The maximum can go for 4 terabyte. 4 petabyte, 4 petabyte. I mean 4,000 terabyte.
All right. So that's answer the question. All right. So the next question, also from David Sim, basically is what is the I/O for this?
Do I have a more specific I/O means here? IOPS or I/O? Are you refer to the input output per second?
If David is still here, yeah, he mentioned IOPS.
Okay, depend on the server. Because the Azure Stack SCI is rely on hardware and software. So you need to check it out with your hardware server whether can support how many big IOPS. It depends on from the server side.
All right. The next question is from Munhua. Can you explain the standard edition unlimited Windows Server containers and the containers license required?
Okay, for Windows Server 2019, Windows Container is totally free of charge. You don't need to purchase any license. But for the Hyper-V container, for standard, is come with 2 license. So when you deploy one Hyper-V container, you need to you can actually deploy 2 Hyper-V container for Windows Server 2019 standard. So let's say you want to deploy 4 Hyper-V container, you need to buy another standard license as well. So that we call it come with another core, or we call it the additional license for the Hyper-V container. So Hyper-V container and Windows container is totally different thing. Hyper-V container, which is virtualize the operating system without sharing the kernel. Windows container is a container that sharing the kernel. That is the main difference. So you can talk to me if you want more detail about this.
All right.
Thanks.
Okay. The next question we have is a scenario given by David. So he wanted to run a script to create a 20 VMs, and then what's the I/O for the S2T?
It depends to your virtual hard disk. So when you create a VM, you actually should estimate, or we can call it a provisioning, how big your hard disk for individual VM. So you need to, the maximum can go for 4 peta. So it depends on how big your hard disk need to create for every single virtual hard disk, require how big is your size. So it's very subjective. You need to check it out whether how your provisioning planning.
All right. Thank you, Peter. So the next question we actually have that someone we could not define yet, Nominus. If you are still here and you ask this question, you can actually just voice it out so we know who you are. Because if this question is selected to win prizes, so you might not be able to win if you don't know who you are. All right. So this question is about protection for cloud database. And his main question is asking about is there any IP restraint and etc. Evie, could you help us to explain more?
Yeah, so I think first of all, the question is not very clear when it says about cloud database. What is it? That's why I put it in a scenario there, right? So if you are, for example, if you are running a SQL Server in Azure, like what I showed in one of the slides, the in-cloud data protection, we are able to protect that SQL Server by deploying the our data protection solutions from the Azure Marketplace itself. So what we need to do is really to put in the agent, install the agent into the VM instance to protect the SQL workload. So I'm not sure if that answered the question. If not, please reach out to me because I think the question is not very, very clear in a way.
All right. The next question we have is from Kylie Go. His question was, how long will the downtime be? Which I think can be, it's not, might not be very specific, but
okay. I'll just reiterate. The downtime. So remember the slide on the consideration. So number of databases, size of databases, your actual downtime that you have, and then what technologies you have, whether are you virtualized, are you on shared storage. Additionally, what's your network speed available, what kind of database, what kind of tape drive maybe are you using LTO8, LTO6, and so on. All these contributes to the downtime. A rough estimate will be for you to do a full backup and restore on maybe LTO7, 8 hours. If you're on NAS, probably will be faster. But that does not actually, it's not the whole story because you still have to consider your reconfiguration of your application servers, your testing, your pilot testing, and so on. So all of this will contribute. So typically, depending on database size, you might want to do one weekend, or you might, let's say, choose another approach where you do a differential backup, and then so that your last copy is as little as possible. So all of this requires study, requires management, requires planning. Some in more depth than others. A lot of planning before the actual execution of the task.
All right.
Okay.
Then the next question we have from Patrick Tan is he wanted some advice on the SQL 2008 to 2019.
Migrating from SQL 2008 to 2019, unfortunately, you can't do an in-place upgrade. You can only do a migrate. So how you want to migrate? Ideally, I would recommend that you migrate using the DMA, data migration assistant. That will be the best way to move forward. You have more options in terms of selecting source and target, and you have encryption options. You can, and if you have more than one server, you can run multiple jobs at the same time. Contributing to your time before you actually plan the actual cutoff. All right, and the most important thing is really the assessment for you to know what is enabled in your current environment, in the 2008 environment, before you plan and see what you can turn on, what you have to turn off inside 2019.
All right. So I think that's the last question that we have. I have not seen any new questions. If you guys have any further questions, you can always approach back to us and contact Chess Asia through our inquiry email, inquiry@chessasia.com, and we also link you up we'll link link you up from there lah. Okay, so that's the end of this session, and I'm very thankful for everyone to attend. And thank you for your time.
Okay, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
All right.
Bye-bye.